We good?
We're good.
All right. We'll call this meeting, the library, Board of Trustees to order here at 5 o'clock. We are missing Sarah, but everybody else is present. And first thing up is do our oath of office. Which I often recommended we do it around, but sometimes it's difficult.
We could do it in unison.
I would say let's do it in unison.
Okay.
If everybody's okay with that, then we should just do that. So the oath of office. I do swear
To uphold the Constitution of the United States and of this state, to discharge faithfully the duties of this office to the best of my judgment and ability, to represent the Grand Marais Public Library both to the people and to the governing officials, to see that adequate funds are obtained for good library service, and to promote the best possible use of all library resources in the area, to encourage cooperative activities between different types of libraries, and to extend library service to those not previously served.
nice work. Right. Now,
So everybody
got their
has the
form.
office forms. The form is inside that you sign.
And then there's like a little notary thing.
Yeah, I think I get to do that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Put it in the file.
There we go. All right. Who would like to be president? Anyone?
Thank you. No.
Anno? Come on.
What? I thought that was a 3-year term.
Yeah, no. It's one. I
I
mean,
could
it's
do it.
been a few, but yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? I mean, I can keep doing it, but it's like to do it.
You're good at it. You are good at it. You are good at it. Can we nominate you? And
You could, but somebody else could do it too. Where's Sarah? Maybe Sarah wants to do it.
Sarah's
Let's
walking.
nominate
In abstention.
Sarah.
That's why you show up to the meeting when you
Yeah.
have these kind of.
That's right. I nominate Sarah.
And
let's tell her
while
we
she-
just voted her in.
And while she approaches, I just want to
All
thank,
in
Hey,
favor
Sarah.
I
for
want to thank
Sarah.
Nancy.
I nominate Sarah for president.
Thank you. I want to thank Nancy and Sue also for continuing their service with us. And David and Mike are both here today too, so yay.
Yeah, I had a.
But we're not thanking you, Anna, just so you
I'm
know.
delaying that.
Okay, we're happy
Thank
to hear.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
It's intentional.
Well, you should make me president then.
Yeah.
If you
should
don't
be
like,
president.
if you don't like me, then you should make me president.
That's right. We'll nominate you to be president. I'm gonna nominate Sarah to be president.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Oh,
See?
that was
Okay.
easy.
Oh,
Do we need to vote or can
Yeah,
we
we
just
do.
do it by
Well-
acclamation or what?
I think we should.
Well, selection of and vice. We do all in one.
Yeah, I think we do both. Kevin, you agree?
To be vice
Once
president?
we've nominated, then we have to vote.
Yeah, you could do it all at once. You don't have to do it individually
Okay.
unless there's a contest.
Okay, got it. Does Kevin, you want to keep going as vice?
I can.
Okay. And are you a secretary?
Yeah, but I think maybe Enno could step into that role.
You're like Secretary of State.
Ooh. Sure.
Okay, great. All right. I think we have our nominations. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Right?
All opposed? Seeing none? Motion passes. New president.
Okay, lead us. Your leader.
Onward.
Excellent.
Oh, although you do your oath of office and sign.
Yes.
So
Do you want me to do the oath of office?
Here you are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
you can do
Let's
it.
make it official.
So you're officially doing the.
Minutes.
They've done theirs already.
Officially doing.
So I get to do mine. So
Just sign my.
As secretary, you get to delegate.
Yeah,
all right.
just making sure.
I do swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States and of this state, to discharge faithfully the duties of this office to the best of my judgment and ability, to represent the Grand Marais Public Library both to the people and to governing officials, to see that adequate funds are obtained for good library service, to promote the best possible use of all library resources in the area, to encourage cooperative activities between different types of libraries, and to extend library service to those not previously served.
Thank you.
All right.
We're just signing the 2 pages and then sliding to the middle.
I can do this as we we can move on to the consent agenda. Any changes or additions to the agenda?
I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I would second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And do we have a liaison report tonight?
Not today, but I can say that they are going to try to meet quarterly starting in February, and they're looking forward to
super.
coming and saying hello.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Like in February?
In February at our meeting.
Okay.
All right, then we move on to Amanda's report.
Okay. Uh-oh. So in terms of our building, we have 1/3 more of the air source heat pumps completed. The team, so there's one in this room, on this wall, and in the back of the library here, with the unit being outside our emergency exit here. And the heat performance has been really exciting, even in the colder weather. I come in to see the thermostats at 71 degrees, which means I think that the propane is turned off because I've got that set lower. This section will be done next. I have the work scheduled for the 27th and 28th, and I do have the outdoor unit is going to be mounted to the wall. We think that that will protect our investment from the snowfall damage and also make it possible to do an emergency exit over there if we're able to proceed in that direction. For staff, we have a library clerk here whose name is Evelyn Coffin, and she curates monthly displays of books for everyone to check out. And her displays last year performed so well, they succeeded in circulating over 500 books. And so that is tremendous and exciting for everyone. Our newest library clerk, Catherine Maggie, took a position as the executive director of Historic Cook County. And the first review of applications for the opening is starting now.
Any?
We do.
Excellent.
Thank you. Programs. I need to pause and back up because we had a changing of guards. I have invited our librarian, Ryan Lang, to come work as your secretary. And he is responsible for our adult programs. I'd love to hear a few words about what he's working on.
Okay, so we've got a lot of exciting stuff that's been happening this month and in the next, and just, yeah, where do I start? We have ongoing programs, the Dungeons and Dragons group, which of course David's part of, very proud of him, and just a good way for him to connect with his son and the group. And so we meet first and third Thursdays, and there's a smaller, littler kids group that meets on Tuesdays that I run. Very exciting. And then I have a monthly poetry workshop that happened on a steady Wednesday night, kind of where I can fit it in with all the other stuff we got going on. We have a beginner knit class that's ongoing. It's a 6-week run, although it's going to span 7 weeks. But there won't be a meeting on the 13th of February because of Fiber Week in North House, so she just can't make it that week. But so we've been getting about 14 people for that the past 2 weeks at 10 o'clock in the mornings on Thursdays. We've got our story time that's going, which is Erica's domain with the youth, and that's always pretty well attended, and that's been going well. And it sort of all fits in a little bit. We're trying to really bring the programming out a little bit with the winter reading as well. We had a pretty good program last night from 6 to 8. There was a sort of a geology of Cook County and the North Shore, and about 87 people, mostly adults. So we packed them in here last night. It was a lot of fun. And it was sort of like, and there was like a rock identification thing at the end. So that went really well. And next Wednesday, we've got an ongoing series, a writer in residence series. Brian Malloy, who's an award-winning novelist of After Francesco and Year of Ice. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he got a grant to do a 12-month-long program. So he's coming not every month, but he'll be here twice a month in February. So he's doing some writing workshops as well, and he's sort of broken it down by topic. He's also going to be involved with Silver Bay and the Two Harbors Library, doing some stuff for that too. So he is a part-time resident, lives down the road, and really a fantastic teacher. And we had him come and do a couple classes in November 2023. Really liked it. We had about 20 people in each. So he's going to be starting off with place and setting, and then some, there'll just be different subtopics of writing as well, and including he'll do a presentation in June for Pride. And it's going to be actually on a Saturday instead of a Wednesday, but it'll be writing your coming out story, which I think will be really powerful. Yeah, and then we've got Terry Griffiths coming early next month. He wrote The Gunflint Falling. He's also writes he writes fiction books too, like mysteries. And so I got him on the line coming in with ALS. Kind of reached out to him and said, hey, you should do a program with all libraries in the Arrowhead library system. So I expect that'll be pretty well attended as well. So, hey, if you see these things up on our Facebook page, share it on your wall, get the hype going, show up, it'll be great. So yeah, we got a lot of fun stuff happening here, and I really appreciate all your support.
I just like to give kudos to Ryan too, because he is doing a great job publicizing everything on Facebook and in papers and so on. So I mean, it's a job to do that.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun, and it's, if you like what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Right.
So
But you do a good job at it. So
I appreciate it.
I also really appreciate Ryan's work. Like he was talking about how Carrie Griffith, he actually got this to go throughout the whole Arrowhead library system by his networking with Carrie, and was a personal friend that brought us the rock hounding program last night. And as well, I think that Ryan is incredibly good at matching the interests of our community to the programming that he's selecting. Dungeons and Dragons has brought in a really different demographic of individuals to our programming, and I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah, I really appreciate that program, and it's almost like therapy. It's really fun, and yeah, just the relationship building, whether it's with my son or just with the other people there. It's just really great community building.
Yeah, I think in this kind of era of AI generating ideas for us, it's sort of like the anti-AI. You have to think up a story as you go on your feet, and it just works a part of your brain that maybe doesn't get as much work anymore. So,
I was a little resistant initially, just because, oh man, how can I prioritize playing a game, but then kind of thinking more about the value of the relationship building. It's easily justifiable in my mind, at least. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. So yeah, we're having a good time, and that should continue.
That's good. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions for Amanda? All right. And we've got statements and old business, the director's review. So we've got some documents in the packet. The old tool kind of modified by a few of us, a fresh new tool put together by Nancy, and then another option put together by Amanda. Do you want to go over?
Yeah, I can just recap on the note that I sent out, which is, so we have Michael Gary and Sue McClone offered suggestions that were incorporated into the existing tool that we had been working on at the last meeting. And there were some lines struck from the working draft. There's an overall scoring component, and that would help us integrate this tool into the city's process. And then there was an emphasis on the metrics where trustees could absolutely know or feel confident that they know rather than perceive the director's actions. So I think those were some fantastic contributions. Nancy Shiger's draft was presented as a new concept. It has different themes and metrics that align with what she observes that I have been doing in the last year. And then I had talked last time when we were asking, you know, what do I think could be helpful? And I had this different view of perhaps looking at the organization's performance, which is an indirect look at the director as well. But I think that it focuses more on the collaboration aspect between the board and the director and our success together and actualizing strategic goals. So I'm just offering that as a thought piece, or I think it also could work in tandem with the other two tools.
No, is that one looks a lot like what Rowena was using. Is that like similar to what she was using? Or no?
No.
And is the one that the city is using? Is that, well, you've obviously seen it. What do you think that would be useful for us at all, or it's just totally other camp?
I'm not quite sure how to answer your question,
Okay.
but I'll give you I'll just respond and you'll tell me if I got it or I didn't.
Okay.
The question that is asked on the review relevant to the board is, do I successfully collaborate with library board trustees?
And so is that like the only
That's
thing
it.
that's really okay?
That's
All
it.
right, then never mind.
Yeah, and so then I provide my feedback. Oh, I did these things with my board this year that I thought were very successful. We installed this, you know, all the new lighting. We installed the air source heat pumps. We're looking at these kind of initiatives together. I provided a list of improvement opportunities that they could use as a start. You know, it's this sort of thing. But it's lacking your input and feedback. And your perspective of how the library is performing or how I am, depending on which angle you want to take. So any tool that we use, any way that we do this, I think is going to provide the administrator feedback on what that collaboration looks like from your view. I do think it could be helpful for the administrator to have at least one score where you show whether I am, or the library performances, exceeding, meeting, not meeting, or completely not demonstrating your expectations are being met.
That seems like something we could add to whatever.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Did that work for you? Did that?
Yeah. I was just thinking like, you know, it's not double.
Mhm.
Some of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think we're evaluating in a different way than
Yes.
the city is.
Should be.
Yeah.
Because, oh yeah, and I guess we were talking about that, it was said in here, but just, I did check in with Mike, just like, so what are we anyway? What kind of entity are we relative to the library? At a time, like, we could have been, you know, not an advisory board, but the decision was made back in the day that we will just be an advisory board.
Oh,
So
okay. Really?
that is what our role
Okay.
and task is.
What?
It's not
Yeah, and
reflected in the
I
bylaws.
did.
I know. I mean, I was like, but Mike, and he's like, yeah, this was decision made, you know,
Yeah.
when the library started. They decided like, why we're double doing our work, you know.
Mhm.
So they decided not to.
So we're an advisory board.
We're an advisory
Okay.
board. Yeah. I mean,
Is that the perspective of the county as well?
Good question, isn't it?
The county, I guess, hasn't discussed it.
but I don't know, the city has always done the reviews.
Yeah, largely, I mean, it's managed by the city, right?
Mhm.
Administered by the city. I I think the county's role is largely in trying to represent the broader population as well as just the financial aspect of it. And then, governance, but I think it's more like advisory. When we get down to it.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been discussed.
Well,
We're kind of a weird hybrid almost.
yeah. Well, a little bit of research that I've done, and I can't say that this is for all of Minnesota or everywhere, but it tends to be in cities, and this I know is true in, for example, in St. Paul, which is the city I know the best. The city council is the board of the library because they hire, fire, administer, and so on. Now, there's the Friends of the Library, which plays a huge, huge role in kind of advice and so on. But we don't fire or hire. We read about library budget cuts in the newspaper. So I don't think, I think we're an advisory board.
Yeah.
And I think that makes sense because we can look at how the library works, and how Amanda works, which is kind of why I did what I did. And I'm not trying to say this is what we should do. And I didn't put a metric in here because I figured you can add metrics. But I was just thinking of all the things that we discuss when we come to, so we discuss financial management. We discuss, well, we don't exactly discuss the collection, but we do discuss technology. I'd like to know a little bit more about the collection, not because I think it's not happening. I think it is happening. This seems to be a very good, up-to-date library, but it would be nice if we had a way of kind of confirming that and putting that in our review, because there are libraries that aren't up to date. We talk about building and grounds. We talk about marketing the library. Amanda talks about her professional development and comes back and tells us what, and all of that, I mean, that is work. Plus there's the relationship with the trustees, which, I kind of teased it out. This is actually all part of it though. And certainly what the city uses doesn't really touch a lot of in any of those things. And I think it's important,
Mhm.
So whatever we do, I mean, we may not use this form, but but we should touch, I think, on at least some of these things, maybe most of them.
Yeah, I liked your tool a lot, Nancy. I thought it
Oh,
was
thank you.
really.
Well, I started out with yours. I stole some stuff right from yours.
Maybe it looked familiar.
Yeah, you're right.
Like really good.
A little more coherent.
Well, I always say that I am a person who has good ideas, and it's usually because somebody has thought them before I did.
Best ideas are always stolen ones.
Mhm.
Do we want to adopt a review tool to use next fall to provide feedback to the city? Do you want more time with these review tools? Do we want a hybrid of them?
If everybody's liking Nancy's, we could, I suppose, and just add a metric so
metric.
that we can send that on to Mike and the council.
Because I also think that for Mike and the council, they are probably not aware of all of these things. They have other fish to fry.
On yours, Amanda?
Mhm.
We got these lined up right. It says 1, 2, 3 strategic goals, 4 budget effectiveness, 6 closing.
I must have edited.
I'm just
That's okay.
wondering
We can
if I'm
edit
missing
that.
a page here.
One of the things that this tool, so let's go back to our conversation a little bit from last month about the logistics of managing a review of the director. There are laws that allow for a closed meeting, but seeing as how the city council manages the personnel, we do not have the authority to close our meeting. A closed meeting would happen at city council. So our board will I will need to find a logistical pathway for you to do a review of the director. One of the strengths or counterpoints or a different way we can talk about the tool that I'm providing to talk about the library performance is that all of this content, it stays above the level of personnel review and it looks at the library performance review, and all of the content can be discussed at a public meeting comfortably. As well as I think meet your goal of wanting to have open, ongoing dialogue in a structured way that allows us to provide really great service.
Is there a way, perhaps, I mean, I'd have to think about it, or maybe somebody else has thought about it, that we could use your tool, which is an evaluation of the library performance, but then include some of these things that I put in what I did as part of it, part of the library performance rather than specifically necessarily I don't know. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? I sometimes wonder.
Well, so when I respond to that and I'm looking at relationship with the trustees, I might edit it to be something like trustees receive initial orientation and opportunities for ongoing education. Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah. And that the trustees are kept informed and so on. I don't know.
So over here it would be like, are trustees kept informed, apprised?
When we talk about the key resource, or let's say libraries' key initiatives or resources, I kind of think it's important to talk about new and current technology when we talk about resources. I think that's really, really, really important. And I think that comes from when I lived in the city, living in a neighborhood where a lot of people really came to the library, depended on the library for email, for example. They did not necessarily have computers at home. And, kids came in to maybe use Google to do papers or whatever. So without maybe getting into a real, super detail. But I think we do need to point out that we do keep up to date technologically. Our resources are effectively allocated for that, as well as other priorities. But to me, that's increasingly important for people.
What if we had like a programs and services category?
Well, that's a great idea.
Amanda, can I clarify? So is your objection to using what Nancy has put forward is because you feel like it would be too personal? And that's why you...
I'm not opposed to it. I'm just letting you know that there are going to be logistical differences.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm comfortable with whatever you guys decide.
Would be, but I'm wondering about the logistical differences because I feel like as I was reading over this last week that I'm not sure that anything is falling outside of things we haven't already discussed in meetings. So I'm not feeling like we're going to tread outside of those lines. So I'm just questioning, wondering whether we would be needing to do something.
Yeah, my interpretation of what you're saying is that it really does fall into when we're giving a director review, that really does fall into HR and privacy, just rights. And so since we don't have the authority to close the meeting and privacy rights allow for, I mean, the default is a closed meeting.
Yeah.
Then there's a conflict logistically in how that could work. But I really like some of the, if we can meld the two somehow, but they're very, they don't seem meldable.
Well, I don't know if they're not meldable because when we talk about strategic goals and priorities, collection and technology falls into that.
Yeah,
Building and grounds falls into that.
absolutely. You're right. Yeah.
What else falls into
Maybe it's
that?
just the font that was throwing me.
You think it's like the font? They do kind of clash. It is true. We could do it in Comic Sans.
Yeah.
You know that font?
No, maybe.
It's
I've seen it, I've heard it, but I can't.
oh no, it's the font detested by all graphic designers.
Funny.
I would
Must
suggest
find
that
it.
maybe we take these two and do another run at it next time. Take these two, see where, and people can play with it and send their suggestions again to Amanda, and she can take them and we can have a presentation next time.
I like that idea. Then we can sit and work on it quietly, individually, and process a little better.
With the understanding that this is not a HR review, this is, as we said, this is a more of a goal oriented.
I like the idea.
angle.
I do like the idea of the library performance
Mhm.
because that's not personal.
Yeah. Well, and that's what
But it's also,
that's our purview.
That's right.
but it also is maybe then I kind of see it in here a little bit that it's also a review of us.
Mhm.
Well, yeah.
That we are reviewing ourselves as well and open to feedback of,
Mhm.
yeah, you guys have been dragging this on for 3 years, you know, I would like a little more, deadlines and on-task behavior from you folk.
Mhm.
You know, when I was thinking about this, and I was thinking in terms of Amanda, who I think does everything really well.
Yes,
You know, we could be reviewing someone who wasn't succeeding as well.
right.
And then this might get, and same as what I did, when I thought about it later, may get a little awkward in a public
Sure.
meeting if the
No.
person wasn't excelling in this position.
Yeah.
No,
This
yeah.
might be a little safer.
No, I think you're right, Sue. I mean, I can imagine, provides the trustees with adequate information on the need for repairs. When the place is falling apart, she's not doing anything, that sort of thing. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Should we set a deadline for when we have to get our homework in
Yeah.
again?
Yes, February 18, mark a calendar.
February 18th.
That's
Okay.
right.
She just rattled that off. Like,
He was
What
anticipating that
anticipated?
one.
You missed it. I got my calendar out while you were
Oh, I was watching. I was watching.
I'm oblivious.
That's why he asked me.
At least you didn't think I was texting, 'cause then that,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
I'm sorry, you guys still
Guys.
talking?
Just can't get their act together.
Okay, so you aren't asking anything from me about trying to put together anything different. You're gonna provide your feedback of how you see
Think these
this
can,
working together, and then come back with your brilliance at the next meeting.
yes, our
Okay.
brilliance will be present.
Okay,
But I think for us that we should still have that overall number, like however we end this up,
Yeah.
we should have that overall performance thing, like we could say, yes, no, kind
Right.
of, not at all.
But that would
That's
be,
really useful.
that would be the evaluation of the library rather than the librarian.
However, well, it's going to be our report to the administrator. So
Yeah, we do need some kind of metric,
Yeah,
but
so having
Sue makes a
something.
great point. And so if we evaluate the overall what, performance of the library or we are in a sense evaluating the
No,
director,
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, and I think that'll work fine for Mike's purposes.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and functionally, how this would work. I'll just give you more information so you can, as you digest, right?
Okay.
Functionally, how this would work. Yes, if you're talking about the library's performance, you are also talking about the library director's performance. And so when this information gets passed on to the administrator, he's wondering, given the review tool that he has, is my director collaborating effectively with the board? Is
Mhm.
my director meeting the other criteria on here? Here's all this evidence that he isn't in these areas. And then he would develop the expectations for change, and then he would be responsible for executing or managing those or expecting the performance to change. If you, let's put aside that and only look at a true personnel review, like logistically speaking, there are a couple of things that could happen here. You all could do the silent review, like you do your own review of the director, and that all gets passed to the to the administrator, and you never see what each other writes, and then that gets compiled for him as delivered as a composite, and then the expectations are still set by that person, by the administrator. Or we can have a process where you all do a thing and we have a process in place where someone else creates a summary or composite, or however we want that feedback to be redistributed to you so that you can all hear each other's voice somehow, or at least the collective voice, if not individually. I don't know if that's going to help you, but I think that it could. As you think more about it. And just call me in between meetings if you want to talk through that again. Okay.
New business.
Okay. Safety improvements discussion. I've changed my vision several times on how, like, what I'm trying to do with this. And so we're just going to take a first pass at some information and get some initial feedback from you if you have any for me, and then we'll keep working on this. So I shared a memo with everyone here that in 2024, the Grand Marais Public Library faced several public safety incidents that tested our staff and alarmed our community, and they challenged our collective sense of security. And among these were incidents of patrons behaving unpredictably inside of our building, an anonymous bomb threat seeking to end our support of a specific community group, and as well as a social media video of a local man threatening to harm our staff. And in the face of these unsettling events, we did our best to protect ourselves and our community members, our neighbors, and their children. And however, those experiences made it clear that our library is not adequately equipped with the long-term strategies and resources needed to provide the sense of safety that we're known for as a respected public facility in Cook County. I feel that we have a pressing need for a more comprehensive and proactive approach to situations involving violence, threats, and other security risks. And I'm intending tonight to discuss some of the agency feedback that I've gathered and to show how it informs changes I feel would better position us to protect our staff and community in the future. And so here's where I go off script and hopefully stay focused. So if I could put a group hug around agency feedback. When I was working with the Violence Prevention Center, especially in regard to having a threatening person in the library, they wanted us to take an approach where we could increase our chances of surviving, of coming out unharmed. The Cook County Sheriff's Office was giving us feedback on how to stay out of arm's reach of a person who would be threatening in the environment. So for example, run, hide, fight. BTR Architects was consulted to talk to us more about facility improvements, how we might modify our facility to improve safety, in particular with this area over here at the front of the library, including the children's desk, the circulation desk here, and this space in the children's room and the foyer. We have a number of thoughts about this space in terms of just how the public use it in general, that we were curious to see if we could actually improve those at the same time as addressing safety concerns. And so BTR Architects gave us some feedback for discussion. And they wanted us to focus on increasing the amount of time that staff have to respond. The Department of Homeland Security provided a vulnerability assessment of our facility, and they found that what would benefit us most is keeping the threat out of the building altogether. So these are very different ways of thinking about, very different and not so different ways. Can we increase the chances that we come out unharmed? Can we stay out of arm's reach? And do we know how to do that? Can we increase the amount of time that we have to respond? And can we keep the threat out of the building altogether? So the tools that are available for doing these jobs are plans, policies, procedures, and practices. They are staff training and regular assessments and facility modifications. While the agency feedback really was looking at how do you address a threat and sought to help us with that, they left out the key pieces needing to be considered of communication, internal communication during an incident, internal communication throughout the incident. How do we want to respond once a press release goes out? How do we respond to the public and so on? So communication and staff recovery. So in the board packet, I provided you with documents from BTR Architects and also from the CISA vulnerability feed. CISA is an acronym for Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, something like this, but it's a part of the Department of Homeland Security, so I'm using those words interchangeably. Could I talk to you more about these documents? Okay. So the first one that I don't have a slide, I don't have a a virtual doodad here to like put up in the video. But this is a document that is looking at our floor plan and the gray areas that, can I do this? These gray areas are sight lines.
Interesting.
Thank you. So this is a floor plan of the library. The little red dot is quote unquote a threat. It's a person who has come into the building that we feel is threatening or intending to harm someone. And in this view, what we're looking to do, just a second here, I just realized I have a tool. I'll start over. BTR Architects wanted us to know that it's really hard to be an expert about how to modify a facility to reduce risk, and that there are trade-offs and risks to talk about for any of the changes that we could make. There's no right answer, and nobody's going to give us the magic pill, right? Okay. We're trying to help people get out and to have the time to do that. They wanted us to know that safe rooms, constructing safe rooms, have become a very popular method for small businesses, so that instead of escaping the building, you can get yourself quickly into a room where you can close yourself in. They wanted to talk to us about ways to obscure the reference desk over here, that person. For example, the opaque film that I have placed up already. As well as the kids and program participants that would be in this space here. Using technologies and cameras to expand our view of the person coming in, or just to deter excitement from happening. And so I'm flipping back, in this diagram, what they're doing is looking to give us more time. They're recommending that we put signage where the little yellow is a hexagon. are that would post, Nancy, coming back to you, that would post a code of conduct expectations for behavior in the library. The green triangles, they were recommending that we implement silent alarms.
And just a question, you don't have any silent alarm now, right? These are all add-ins?
My building is equipped with silent alarms.
Okay, so these exist.
They do now.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. Then there's triangles where they felt a triangle in this diagram where they felt that having a closed caption TV system, just a surveillance camera, would be advised so that we could see into the foyer there. And so that you can see, maybe you can see that they have removed our circulation desk from the front of the library and they've put it behind the wall in the staff room. And staff would be servicing the public through the window in that model. The pink lines around the number 3, there's 2 spaces. Those were opportunities to build a safe room. So you see the opaque window film in the foyer, to the foyer side. As you walk in through the door, you would encounter a wall enclosing in that space, and that could become a safe room. Here in the children's reference desk area behind you, there's a little kitchenette right in there. And that would be like if we closed that off with a wall and created a safe room that would serve this area. That room is only large enough really to help the staff person at the desk and maybe a person or two in the vicinity. It's not going to serve an entire programming if we have a children's story time or something going on here. There were conversations. There's another number 3 referring to this room here, that this room could be restructured as a safety room as well. For example, if we walled off the glass, or even if we do keep the glass, just preparing it differently, getting that door to lock and creating some kind of exit from within or not, because the concept behind the safety room is that you can't exit, you can just close yourself in. So their concept here is think about ways, Amanda and library trustees, think about ways that you could increase safety and give yourselves more time to respond to a threat in your building. And this is one of the concepts that they provided. The number 2s with arrows pointing here or there, they dropped in these pink lines to indicate the potential of emergency exits.
So then you'd have an emergency exit in one of your safe rooms.
Yes, and very close to an existing door.
Yeah.
Okay. So these aren't recommendations. They're not saying, hey, guys, go do this thing. They're like, think about it this way. Think about if you were to put up more walls, put up more barricades, limit visibility, wall this off, wall that off, make it so that it's not as easy to see in. If you could pause for a moment and visualize what this library would look like, opaqued, walled off, safe roomed. That's not the library that we built for this community. And so there, again, risks trade-off. How does this impact the service that we're delivering? How does it change the experience of the library? Does it foster a sense of safety? Okay, so then I'd like to just pick up the second architectural rendering, and it looks like this. Try to help. I'm recording here. There we go. Every makeup tutorial I've ever seen on YouTube, the girls are always like trying to get the camera to focus, but there we go. Okay, so in this concept, the architect is providing us something that they call the herd approach concept. And herd approach suggests that if everybody in the room can see what is going on, they will respond and come to your aid. And so in this case, if you look at the number 2, The reference desk has been completely removed and we just have created a space of chairs that if it had a wall at all, it would be low. And so you can see over the top of that. The little blue triangles continue to represent cameras, and the yellow hexagons continue to represent signage. The green diamonds are representing silent alarms again. You can see that we now have cameras at each of the entrances to the building, as well as inside the foyer doors and one on this back wall over here as you come in. The staff desk has been modified. It's larger in this rendering to make space for the children's librarian or our librarian ones or reference staff, like however we want to do that, we're conceptualizing them grouped together now.
Mm-hmm.
And they've also changed the direction of how we enter the desk by closing off what we currently use and trying to have us enter and exit from the far side. So in this concept, what they're saying is, well, we'll lower the walls, we'll reduce barriers, we'll open everything up so that everybody can see anything that's happening, and they're just going to come to our aid. Our very thorough staff discussion, we were very uncomfortable with this idea, and in particular, we are concerned that the demographic that we serve, we primarily see elderly and children or families with children, and I'm not confident that this is the group that we want to ask to come try to help our staff.
Yeah, that's the immediate thought. 5-year-olds are not going to save you. So.
And if we're thinking about something like an emergency egress window as opposed to other, are we going to do a safety room? Are we going to do an egress window? Are we going to do an emergency exit? The perspective of BTR Architects was, first of all, given the size of the windows that we have, the little guys are not going to be big enough for code, so we'd have to cut the wall anyway. And then when we're thinking again about our demographics, can you get your legs up and over? Can you actually physically climb out of a window? If you're going to modify the building wall, you might as well put in a door. So you can see that surveillance and alarm systems and exits are in thought here.
Sure, not too worried about the bathrooms, are they?
I don't see a lot of attention, but to be fair, I was looking at, I gave them a specific parameter to look at, and it didn't include the restrooms. So the surveillance cameras, again, like when I was asking you to visualize what this library would look like if we totally closed it down with walls and opaque paper, if we did all of that to the 10th degree, 9th degree, however you say that, we're going to have a similar community response to having a lot of cameras. Our patrons value their privacy. Many people are sensitive to being surveyed and surveillanced, and we also have a professional ethic to uphold, that people can come in here and feel like they can check out a material and they're not being watched. So privacy is a very strong value for us, and it's an uncomfortable conversation to open up to have cameras at all. And so I'm going to come back to this thought a little bit later. I'm going to pause. I am hopefully providing you information that's useful and interesting. Do you have questions for me just off the cuff?
I think, like you said, the locking it down, that doesn't sound too much fun. Wide open, also great. So yeah, we are looking at something
Something else.
I agree about the camera, so that's a tricky one.
People are kind of used to, become accustomed to having cameras in more places, but
But probably not. I mean, I would think, maybe like in the front, in the foyer or something like that, but probably not internally, where they could be seen, like what they're checking out. I get that. I'm trying to give them the opportunity to come in and check things out without giving that away to whoever wants to know.
And functionally speaking, like, what are we wanting these cameras to do? They have a purpose, and their purpose is to increase our chances of coming out unharmed, staying out of arm's reach, giving us time to respond, and keeping the threat out of the building altogether. And it's not practical to imagine staff are constantly monitoring
Nope.
a
It is
thing
not.
like a security guard. And so it's, to be thoughtful about how we're intending to use the cameras is definitely part of the conversation.
Can't now that you're saying like that, I'm like, yeah, right. Yeah, no.
Yeah, they would only,
It's too small. I mean, we're right here.
Yeah.
They're already here by the time I looked at the screen. And
they would only be useful after the fact.
Yeah.
that's how ours are at Bearskin. If somebody's in there weirdly at night or something, we can pick it up afterwards. It's not possible for us to be
Mhm.
sitting and
Yeah.
looking at the cameras all the time. It's
Yeah.
it's maybe more useful after the fact, and maybe that could affect how you decide on that. I don't know, the cameras in all these places are gonna prevent anything. Maybe they would pick up details of what happened later, which.
We don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, I know.
Our church has, we installed a blink system, and we have a blink system.
Mhm.
It's called a blink. But it's
Good one.
securities. It's a wireless. We have wireless cameras around.
Okay.
With one module. We have 3 outside, 3 inside. And our church gets used every day, but yeah, we get like, on average, on slow days, we get 400. I can get 400. If I have my thing on, the canvas turns on, I get 400 to 700 hits.
Mhm.
So when we were first starting that, and we were like, okay, I'm going to be out of town, so the moderator, you gotta have this on your, this is after a while. It's like, there's no way. I mean,
You can't
we can't
watch.
do this.
You can set it up to say,
I mean, it
at
does.
6 o'clock,
May
it turns on or
deter
something.
somebody, and
Yeah.
it may, but that's from this door here can be covered in under 2 seconds.
You're not gonna save anybody with the camera, but you might see something going on outside the building that would alert you. But there's a lot of activity up there just generally
Yeah.
too.
The silent alarm, so that's just
I'd like
common
those.
sense. I hear you got them. So to me, I think but like the arm's length, that's interesting. That seemed like something. Well, maybe we have a deeper desk or something like that. People are a little bit further away, maybe not like a mile away, just so that you can keep a little distance. Things like that.
And definitely the sheriff's office was working with us in regard to 2 very specific individuals, and having knowledge of those individuals provided that feedback. If that's helpful.
Let's see on my mindless browsing, that they do have like fold out staterooms. So it's like it's built into a corner. You can pull it out and it'll fall into a 4x4 square.
That's fascinating.
Wow.
I didn't know about that.
How many, couldn't hold very many people, but
Well, if it was 10 feet out that way, 10 feet out that way, and I mean that's 100 square feet of space. I can cram a lot of families into there.
if it
And
could be done
must
fast.
have
Yeah,
it
it'd have
must
to be
have some
done
kind of
really, really
load for
fast.
materials, because otherwise, why would they put them in
I could see myself struggling with getting it out and how to get it together and
Mhm.
all of
Especially if you
that.
hadn't practiced it. a
Yeah,
number of times.
exactly.
Practice would be part of the deal.
But that's training, but
Mhm.
I mean, it might not be a good option, but
No, no.
I mean, rather than closing everything off here, we put it in one of the corners and people could get to that corner and pull, and the staff get it and pull it out. It's better than falling all that whole part off and
And the additional exits, I think, makes sense.
Yeah.
Seems
Could you
like-
tell me more about that, please?
About the additional exits,
Yeah.
I like them. I think they're a good idea. There's more ways to get out. I mean, if you know, because people know how to push a door open. Get
Is it more ways to get in too, though?
No, I mean, if you
unless you
think
really
about
know what you're doing.
and even then, I mean, if they swing out, I mean, there's not.
I was up at the school delivering a check a couple months ago. And I had to stand by the window so that the secretary could come and get the check and talk to me. And somebody was cleaning a window inside, one of the cleaning people. And somebody walked in from outside and walked right in, which is not supposed to happen. And, so you put a sign up saying, don't do that. Well, they don't care. I have to get this in so they can, it's the Texas incident within the school. Somebody left the door open. So yes, it was a way to get in, even though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was thinking like the emergency exits where it's just like you push and it makes.
Well,
a
that
sound
was
or whatever.
what that door was supposed to be, I think, but
Oh, okay.
it was left unlocked.
Maybe we don't.
We have better staff.
We're not gonna do that.
Level of responsibility that will be.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I suppose anything you would ask.
So to go back to our opening, risks and benefits with each option. And right now, this building has 3 emergency exits, if you will. One being the main entrance where we're assuming a threat is coming in. One back here, which most people don't know exists. And the one in the staff room, which most people do not have access to. I have a children's librarian who works at this desk whom I've relocated because of the danger of having her there now that we're looking at this work. This desk hooks around and it traps her in that space. And if we had any programming going on in this room, especially with our little children here, if we have a threat coming in this way, this room is not the easiest to get out of. My staff and I feel strongly that an emergency exit is going to be the way that we move forward. And it's going to be over here somewhere, but I'd like to talk to you more about that. But as I'm talking to you about these pieces, I'm hoping that you're getting the broad sense of the level of work that is being done to come to the conclusions that I'm going to bring to you. And also, I value your contributions. So before I ramble on anymore, why don't we move into the CISA, to the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, now that I've got it in front of me, document. Had a member of the Department of Homeland Security come and provide a vulnerability assessment of our building. And what that means is that Glenn Sanders came and walked around the outside of my building, the inside of my building, and used what he knows about increasing security in government agencies, and then provided us an assessment. Glenn's assessment wanted to commend to the library that we are proactively working to enhance overall security, and that we're willing to connect with external resources like CISA, like BPC. They didn't mention that, but like law enforcement. They also wanted to acknowledge that we had implemented a training program that provided staff with topics related to security and preparedness, and that appropriate plans with supporting training and exercises conducted on a routine basis is a best practice, and it ensures the facility and staff are best positioned to respond to threats and hazards like we're talking about. When I look through what the Department of Homeland Security provided, I'm coming up with these things. One, the strategy is to slow down or delay the threat from entering the building. They are recommending written documents like the plans, policies, and procedures that I had talked about. They want us to participate in the campaign, see something, say something. They want us to develop procedures for inspecting suspicious packages. They want us to create written security and emergency operations plans. Assessment and training is another area that kept coming up in the report. They want us to practice the emergency action plans. They want us to practice using our places as safe rooms or navigating our building in response to a perceived threat. They wanted us to make sure that our safe places are stocked with first aid kits and things like that. And are the intercoms working if that's a part of the room plan? And they also had some tabletop exercise packages that they recommended we could try. Facility improvements was a large part of what they were recommending too. They talked about entry controls, which I'll talk to you about that in a minute. Egress windows versus the emergency exit. I'll come back to that again. Glenn is fond of window cling.
It's come up a few times.
It did. So there's window cling that helps reduce visibility to the threat, to the person who wants to do something harmful. Like this, when we installed the opaque film, that obscures my staff person from being seen right away. So now we can't target a person because that's in the way. Another aspect of window cling that he wants us to consider is that if we put a cling on the windows that makes it shatterproof, it can delay the threat from coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to follow Glenn's recommendations, we would prioritize putting this type of cling on the foyer and then secondarily all throughout the building. And if we could stop people from being able to look directly into the building, that would be ideal for him too. So that could be something that looks like what I have already installed on our staff entrance, which is a two-way film, one-way film, how we say that, where you can see out, but they can't see in.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is, can we find a film that works at nighttime and controls shatter? Okay, so these are the different kinds of facility improvements that we're discussing. To go back to egress window versus the emergency exit, from Department of Homeland Security's perspective, egress window would be probably good. It would be less expensive than the emergency exit. There's no consideration in this report of who would be climbing through the window or the size or the existing infrastructure of my building being appropriate as a match. He feels that the emergency exit would be cost prohibitive, and therefore we should scrap the idea and look at keeping the person out of the building in the first place, rather than helping people in the building escape from a threat and get out. I hope I said that correctly.
Mm-hmm.
The door would be expensive. We're looking at a $35,000 price tag, and that is before I consult again on engineering for snowfall off the roof. Now I want to come back to entry controls, because whereas we are talking in the BTR architect's plan about investing in an emergency exit to help people get out and away from a threat, CISA is talking to us about keeping people out. And what is recommended here is to install controlled access doors on the inside of the foyer, which means we buzz people in from the front desk.
Well, kind of thing for a library. It just doesn't work.
Could you say more about that?
How would you decide who gets to come in and who doesn't?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
you
staff
just be hitting
isn't
that button all the time.
Security
and
guards.
Then you have someone who you don't want to come in, but you have a mom with two kids. They're standing side by side.
Or they're going out and
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's in this small town, in this small space,
no,
it's gulag.
Yeah.
It's overkill. I don't think that can be our goal.
I can see why they'd like it because it definitely gives you a level of control that would be the most helpful. But this is a public building.
it's a
library.
public space.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the buzz in is a good option, but I do think a push button lockdown would be.
yep,
Mhm.
And
I agree with
so
that.
that's
Yep.
a similar tool technology there.
Mhm.
But that's just kind of emergency use.
An outside camera. Oh, here he comes. You know,
Yeah, but you almost never know that.
Yeah,
You don't think the people in Nashville the other night knew anything. Somebody walked in and started shooting up the place.
yeah. The lockdown is not.
It's surprising if
Fail
you
safe,
you start looking at this. How can somebody,
Right.
under all this scrutiny, get a gun inside there? What they do all the time, one way or another, and they seem to plan for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit concerned that no one has given the bathrooms consideration. I mean, I could see somebody coming in and, how shall I say, pulling out their gun in the bathroom, let's say, or, I don't know, bathrooms can be problematic.
You can't put a camera in the bathroom.
No, this is true. There would be some public reaction to that. So, I don't know about that. I do know my old library in my neighborhood, the bathrooms, well, they were down in the basement and sadly they had to be kept locked because there was absolutely no way that anybody could, see them. But even here, they're kind of out of the way. And so beyond saying I'm concerned, I don't have any particular fabulous idea.
well, there's those corner mirrors, so that people at the front desk could look up at the corner mirror, and they could have a better view of who's coming in and out of the bathroom.
Well, that's a thought.
Right, those bulbs or whatever that are.
In one of these documents, it's a silent alarm. It's just the standard door alarm that's shown in the bathroom there.
That is not the bathroom. That is the
that's
staff
true.
exit, and
That's
it has
right.
a camera on it.
I
It's okay.
saw
It's
too much.
tiny. It's very tiny.
Yes.
Upon further thought, I'm trying to imagine a situation where that push button lockdown would be helpful. Like if someone is known to be outside, that's dangerous, but how would a staff member know that unless?
Somebody might call you. I was in Franklin
Yeah,
when
that's a good
middle
point.
school when they knew that there was a guy with a gun running down the street and they were able.
Yeah,
They weren't able to lock all the doors. Actually ran right through the building. But theoretically,
right, yeah,
they could have.
Yeah.
If you had forewarning.
Yeah.
Fast being able to lock it without
I mean,
having to run around and
somebody seeing a post and saying, "Hey." Yeah.
So as we faced our incidents during the summertime, we were in a situation where we were observing the door very closely. We were very familiar with the vehicles and appearance of individuals, and my staff at least once, if not twice, went out through my foyer doors to the outdoor to try to use a key to lock that door, to come back in and deal with a lockdown. There's no visibility from in here all the way out to anywhere in the front of our library. There's some, like there's a little bit of an angle where you can see to the street and notice a person's truck drive by. So if the threat is known, if the individual is trespassed, those are situations where that can come into play. Our staff also, as we are leaving the building or coming in, we're very observant, we're situationally aware as a group, which I think is phenomenal. And we're very communicative. And so it's very possible one of us is outside returning from the mail run or lunch break and is already communicating to staff. I can think of ideas where that button would be of value. I don't know what the cost benefit trade-off. I don't know what they run.
Yeah, I don't think that should. I guess it's important to know, but I don't think that should be a deciding factor. The cost versus safety. Like if it is a tool that can assist, I was just trying to imagine like how would that work, and just knowing the security systems we have at the courthouse and the malfunctioning, and just it can also be a headache, but safety is, I'd say, paramount. So
I'd like to talk to you more about whatever that is.
And I'm not there enough to experience it.
Okay.
But talking with Roland Watkins would be.
Roland Watkins. Okay.
He's the current. He's the interim administrator, but he's also the IT director and or the MIS director.
Okay.
He's very familiar with the security systems, and we just got a new system.
Is there a sub-basement or is there no basement?
No basement.
Okay.
And we're in the ground, so we're not talking about emergency exits to the back wall, which could have been a consideration.
Thank you for sharing the ideas for how that could be beneficial.
During the pandemic as well, it would have been really fantastic to have those internal doors lockable, because we could have provided people access to the foyer in the colder days, or let them pick up when they're comfortable, or we're limited because those doors don't close or lock in any way, lock in particular. Yeah, and I was looking for tools. I know that there are these tools that look like a fork, and you can just like drop them onto the handlebars, and they create a lock when you need it. And then it wouldn't require us to go all the way out, but they don't work with the doors that we have. Okay. That was egress windows versus emergency exit from the Department of Homeland Security perspective, and also entry controls, the locking doors of the foyer. Surveillance and visibility was the other piece that came up in this report. And again, you're seeing a recommendation for closed caption TV, prioritizing the exterior main entrance, employee entrance, with a monitor near the employee entrance. We'll talk about that. And at this existing emergency exit. Secondarily, considering the foyer and the lounge, not the lunge. Right. The other recommendation that he made was that there should be another light outside on this street on 2nd Avenue. It can help to reduce slip, trips, falls, and can be a deterrent for safety concerns, security concerns. So when we start opening this conversation, my staff, it's dark outside now, and I'm going to be walking to my car, as are you. We have Friday night reels that go until 8:30, sometimes 9 o'clock at night in the winter time. There's not very good lighting out here, and we're trying to walk to our cars on ice. There are often idling cars outside when my employees are leaving and trying to get to their vehicles, and we have great concern here for their safety. So if we were in a position to have a camera on the staff door as well as a monitor inside, okay, sorry, back up. The emergency exit has a narrow window. So you can kind of do this and like push your face and try to see around, but you don't have a very wide scope to be able to see what's going on outside before you open the door. This is an instance where a security camera and a monitor on the inside of the building would allow us to preview before we exit the building whether it's safe to be out there. in the first place. And I've already spoken with the city administrator about the lighting on this street, and he is pursuing some installation out here that I need to get more information on, but that's already being taken care of.
Oh, that's good. Good.
Nice.
The light needs to function from the library's perspective during our operational hours and does not need to go on all night long. Just 9 o'clock at night on a late night, and it would be extremely helpful. Okay. I'd like to pause there and just see how you're digesting this in addition to the comments that are already shared.
It's really complicated. So much.
I think there's good suggestions, and what I think I'm gonna get the most benefit from is just what you and the staff have discussed, because you're dealing with it always and know just the functionality and the risks that you all perceive. It's one thing for an expert to come in and talk about standard procedures and all that kind of thing, but just knowing the community and knowing the flow, and integrating those standard procedures, I think, is really real.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Almost thinking, other than obscuring, taking that and flipping it on that side, that if there's more openness, not that people come to help, but then it gives people more opportunity to flee or hide or get to safety rather than try to have everything blocked up. So as people start fighting it, someone comes in, I'm not going to use a gun, but someone comes in and starts yelling. I mean, the kids are there, they can see that. They can see who is yelling, and if they have any kind of weapons or not, hearing some scuffle or hearing some engagement, some argument, and wondering, okay, who's arguing and what weapons do they have? I think that would be. I think the more information is the better. I mean, and having those exits, it would be better than trying to obscure everything. So you don't have staff running around and saying, "Okay, now you got to go here, now you got to go there," and finding the people. Okay, everybody head over here, or everybody get here. I mean, in a less panicked voice, but.
Amanda, can you say something about what is it, the See Something, Say Something program? What is it, and how would that work, or perhaps not work here?
See Something, Say Something is a national campaign where you engage community neighbors and your staff in situational awareness, like noticing if somebody is carrying a suspicious package and reporting it. So this would look like staff are all trained to see something and say something, and I'm knocking on neighbors' doors, and I'm talking to Dairy Queen, and I'm talking to Visit Cook County and our neighbors over here in this building, and we are agreeing to work together to see something, say something. If something's suspicious, if something's uncomfortable, then we're going to be having conversations about that and looking after each other. So it's extending our ability to care for ourselves, putting eyes outside of the building, not cameras, that are a community action towards being safe in our community, in the library. Is that helpful?
It is helpful. What do you think about that? If you were to institute that, how would you or the staff or anyone feel about that? Does that make sense, do you think?
I think it's definitely good to be raising awareness of safety in the community. staff were introduced to the See Something, Say Something
Okay.
campaign at our training day that I had, where I closed the library for staff training, focused on safety when the threat is a person.
Mhm.
And I think there's more work to be done. Yeah. What
Right.
is your perception? Or
I like the idea in general. I'm wondering has anyone perchance talked to any of like the Dairy Queen and Visit Cook County and so on, or has that not perhaps yet been pursued?
it has not yet been pursued.
Okay. Yeah, I just wondered if it had been, what their response might be.
Okay. So, excuse me. Safe rooms and egress windows and emergency exits and controlled doors are seeking to provide people access to a safe place. And we're trying to balance that with maintaining the comfortable environment that we're known for, as well as the risks that might be involved. And then we've been talking about surveillance and all of these different things that applied all together and applied in certain patterns are going to affect the experience that people have when they enter our library. Our staff are as sensitive, if not more, and in alignment with board discussion that I'm hearing tonight in terms of wanting to preserve our welcoming environment and our value of patron privacy, and also to feel like our sense of safety is being addressed appropriately. So how shall I put a group hug on this? I get to make really smart decisions for all of you and for the library. I'm not asking you to go home and be an expert in this. I'm just wanting you to see some of the work that I have been doing. I'm wanting you to hear some of the conversation that's going on, because I do intend to move forward with an emergency exit installation in this room, preferably right over there. And I also am wanting to move forward with surveillance on the exterior of the building. And the way that I want that surveillance on the exterior of the building to function for us is, first and foremost, can my staff see outside before they exit this door over here? And secondly, at the main entrance, this is a very significant blind spot for staff when we are inside of the building. I think there are times when we can use that camera while the library is operational, when we hear a commotion outside, and rather than rushing out there with our physical person, we can take a peek on the camera. If we were in a lockdown situation or trying to determine from a safe room in the library whether it's time to escape and which building, we have a pathway for doing that. Also, P.S., we've become a dumping ground for people's furniture and bicycles out here. And I think that could give us a little bit of a help too. Now, with this, we're going to have to, I feel, we have a responsibility to create some transparency with the public about what we're doing and why. And you all are going to be able to help me with that through establishing a policy that talks about what we're using the cameras for, whether we're intending to back up the data, which I think we should. And that's going to create an impact on our budget if we're storing data. We're going to have an annual fee associated with the installation of these cameras, in addition to the cost. The cost, I've heard as an early guess from other departments, is like $10,000 to $20,000, depending on the system, to get us started. And then there will be the recurring fee depending on how much data we're going to be using. All the things, and how to request information. Because this, I think really, when we're talking about patron privacy and in the balance of safety and security in this building, it is one thing to have a camera available. The content of what that camera is recording and perceiving is protected by law, and it has to be subpoenaed to be accessed.
Right. What is or perhaps, I don't know, have you looked into what the general policy is about how long that data is maintained or kept? Is it, 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years?
Doesn't seem like it would have to be very long.
Yeah, I think
I
30
don't
30
think
days.
so either,
Yeah.
but,
It might even be less, 2 or 3 days.
pardon?
2 or 3 days, maybe.
2 or 3 days?
Well, maybe you want more than that, because if you want to look back and say, something's been going on for a few days.
You always have the option of keeping something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe for research purposes, a little longer than 2 or 3 days, but you sure don't need.
You don't need it for years and years, I don't think, but it would be interesting to know if there's I don't know, maybe a general policy or.
Our church, we don't have a subscription, so I have everything on a little thumbnail and I
Us too.
don't clear it off every week.
Yeah. No, that's
Then
another
I-
way of doing it, yeah.
Then I have to, then it stops recording or saving it, so.
So having it like that might be. To not have a subscription, just like download it onto something. Sort of task.
And I am looking at that as well. Having a local copy, and I already have some ideas of, I have ideas about how long to keep the data, and can provide that as a package to you, what I'm thinking of. These are not the only modifications that I intend to do. They are, however, the most significant. They will be an expense, and they will also be a change to the experience of our library. But I feel that they are important.
One other thing to go back to, and that is the rehearsal or practice on the part of staff, and
Yeah.
maybe you could even, recruit some volunteer library patrons who might want to. I'm thinking of, back in the day when I was in a small college as a student, they had disaster drills every once in a while, and so perhaps nothing quite that elaborate, but still, that might be useful to do those every, I don't know, year, 6 months, something like that. And it might be interesting to somehow get, people in town or in the county to participate.
Thank you. Yeah, I received that, and I'm on board. We have a willing participant at Cook County Sheriff's Office, and are looking forward to being in a space where we're ready to rehearse, practice what we learned at our all-day staff training with Run, Hide, Fight.
I think that would be great, but also, as I say, eventually getting local people involved, because then it won't be what the heck are they doing at the library? They'll know what the heck we're doing at the library.
I think there's value too in wrapping our head around the experience of dealing with having not only staff trying to figure out to exit, but having a patron to escort out or something.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I hear you.
Just an topic suggestion of where we're talking about the one-way shadowgraph or shatterproof.
Yeah.
Just have putting clear shatterproof glasses on there, then it does give a little protection on those windows.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. I want to pursue safety improvements further, and I feel that this is a priority over strategic planning. Can I have your support?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Do you have any requirements or expectations of me for the next meeting in particular?
Budget wise, or is this in your purview, or do you need our permission, especially with a new exit door, to take funds from this pot or that pot?
That's a really good question. I believe I would be presenting you with quotes
Okay,
before moving forward on the purchases.
okay.
So, emergency exit, exterior cameras, is that the gist of it?
Those are the most significant and the most visible, impactful changes.
But that's-
The policies and procedures are going to be invisible to most of the public in many cases. The signage of our expectations of patron behavior will be something that would go up. I will be installing more window cling. You remember the Saturday Night Live, more cowbells? Or more window cling. But I'm gonna get an idea of what I want where.
One ask I was gonna have, well, as far as the cameras are concerned, I really hope you get in touch with Rowan, because it is super fresh, up
Thanks.
there. And,
Yeah, I need
and a
help.
lot of, options were explored. And it's integrated, the camera system is integrated with the push button duress alarm. So when you push the button, the camera goes to where the button was pushed.
Interesting.
Specifically, and they have all the retention policies in the sheriff's office, and I thought the school was working on a system too, but I'm not privy to that. But the other thing I was gonna ask is just to try our darndest to maintain the feel. I gotta believe, I mean, there's the aspect of the site, right? And looking in the windows, there is a risk there. There's a lot of windows, so maybe that's a lot of risk. But I gotta believe there can be a door, a one-way door, an emergency exit door installed that still captures some of that light if we want that. Maybe it's a half glass, maybe it's
Light coming into the building?
Mhm.
Are you talking about light coming into the building?
light coming into the building.
David,
So like
so
that.
the best location for the door is anybody's guess, right?
Oh,
But the more I assess my building, I'm interested in that center place.
okay.
And if you stood at that window and if a door was there and had glass, shatterproof glass, you can see into the foyer, giving you an opportunity to verify
Nice.
whether
Yeah.
it is safer to exit, like where is the threat?
Yep.
If the person is over here, then it's time to go
Yeah. Yeah. And
that way.
yeah, you
And you
guys,
could see.
yeah, you guys are gonna know better placement wise, I think.
yeah.
And just all that. I was thinking the
Thank
first one,
you.
but what did I don't.
What's
I was thinking the first one just based on the diagrams.
That's-
But
yeah.
I don't feel that is,
Like I say, did.
yeah, I don't feel like that's necessarily where it needs to go, but whatever you
Okay.
guys know as far as what you think and the flow and what's gonna be in the way or not, and you could still keep seating or, you know. That was just one of the concerns I had, and the impact might be minimal as far as disruption to the experience, and still have that emergency exit viability. So.
Thank you. Yeah, we had so the architect has no opinion on where the door should go. They're just kind of giving us options.
Okay.
And I preferred originally that location as well because of the
Proximity to the children.
because of the proximity to the wall as a barrier. It hides, it obstructs visibility more. But anyway, I can work on this problem for us.
The other question I had though, last I think was just about the long-term thought amongst you and staff regarding the children's desk. If it's preferable that goes away, or I see a lot of value in it, just having that proximity to the children's section, and I don't know.
This desk comes up in conversation regularly as, it's a frustration and a good thing and a weird thing. For example, people come into the building and they don't know, should I turn left or right? Where should I go to take my books?
There's no wrong door.
Yeah, and the children's collections are, on opposite sides of the building, and
I see.
it takes up quite a large footprint. And we've talked about, you've mentioned David makerspace things, or like having a teen area where that's just their area. Like if we closed it in with if we had a similar feel to this, but it was a teen video gaming space, or we've talked about turning the little kitchenette there into a lactation room for mothers for our children.
Okay.
In my view,
I don't need to know anything now, but just.
well, I mean, hear it. There's a lot of thought and conversation going into it, and there's no perfect answer. I feel that with some of the changes we've already made and with an emergency exit, we could continue to use the desk as it is, but unless we make changes, that desk is not going to be used.
Yeah.
And would need to be removed anyway.
And it sounds like it.
Yeah.
It's not just a question of security, it's a question of practicality as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. So I'm going to go do some more good work. I'm hearing a lot of support, and to continue prioritizing this is good. I thank you so much for listening and for your time and for your input. And I'm here if you have more, because this is it's dense and it's important work, and I'm sure you're going to have more thoughts about it.
Well, I would like to make a motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
That we support the director in her priority to create a safe and effective environment over the strategic plans at this time, so that when we do reviews later, we can say, well, you worked, and this probably could take 3 to 5 months, And I mean, so it's like, okay, well, you had all these goals and you only accomplished half of them. Why? So I would like to make a motion that we affirm our priority of creating the safety plan, the building, emergency plans, and all other areas over the strategic plan until those things are accomplished.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Okay.
I felt
Thank
like
you,
the
Anna.
owl just then. What?
May
Okay.
I simply ask too, now that we've passed that motion, can the strategic plan at some point be modified so that this becomes a strategic priority and part of the plan?
That's something we can look at.
That's your purview.
Yeah. So it isn't a case of we've kind of dropped the plan in favor of this, but rather we've amended the plan and this is now part of it.
Yeah, this is a world we're
Just
living into, so
prioritize.
yeah, we probably need to relook at that.
idea.
So how would you like to structure that, though? Do you just want to come to the next meeting and we'll all sit and read it together? Does everybody want to do homework and bring your ideas?
I think so. I'm kind of running out of ideas.
Do you want to give it a pause and do it in March? Like where are you landing?
Possibly. I may not be here in March, but you all
I
can
think
march
that's a
on
good
without
idea.
me.
We put reviewing the strategic plan on the March agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for accumulating all this information that we don't know anything about. It's a lot.
Yeah, you've really done a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, anything further? We are adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you for becoming president.